hide behind the cloak. And if you stay in the mist, you gon' be soaked. So listen up, cause this hair of the dog, what's real, what ain't, is this the fog or smog? Cause there's a difference when you breathe it in. So don't let the corporate media take you for a spin. This that morning show, they put you in the know. So I hope that you ready, cause all we do is go, go, go. Yeah, come get your info, you gon' be like, whoa. Hair of the dog, we bout that, ayy. We in the zone, we out here, yeah. Speeding the facts.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hair of the Dog. I'm Andy Kennedy. It is Bucket Friday. That will become more clear when we scare the shit out of you with our graphics that my co-host chose for today. Good morning, Carrie Barber. How are you?
I am fantastic today. I'm at the point where if you don't laugh about some of the stuff that's going on, you will just cry. Spend the day in bed, blankets over your head. So I am choosing to laugh at just the utter ridiculousness that has come out from all sources, in particular our racist law enforcement. They're just, oh, I can't wait to get to that story. But first, we have so many other things to cover. Some on a very serious note, and some that really is a good example of being good people. So, good morning, Mike. Mike's up with us bright and early, and if this is your first time, or maybe you've just been a lurker, we are live and interactive. So if you type something in the chat, particularly on our Facebook page, this is Digital Liberation Front -Live, or on our Twitter, we'll see it. And so we want you to get involved and join the conversation, because nobody wants to hear me drone on forever and ever. So please feel free. Oh, hey, we have Jeffrey this morning. Good morning, Jeffrey. Wow, that's a nice surprise. Hi,
Well, he's
Jeffrey.
supposed to be playing hooky. Shouldn't he be at work already?
Yeah. Jeffrey's like on the big screen of a baseball where he told his boss he was sick. So instead,
yes.
he's
Hope he's not
us.
watching.
Right. I was just choked.
Sorry.
Our tens of viewers, one of them is not Jeffrey's boss. I guarantee it.
Well, I know it's not a big possibility, but there's always a chance.
Right. Tiny chance. So well, good morning, Jeffrey. Thank you. And yes, we're just messing with you this morning. So yeah, we got a ton of stuff to talk about. And this was going on. The first story, we're going to talk about HR1. And I posted a link I post every time links in the comments in the chat so that you can follow along. And I want you to have this information. So if you were not aware of it, there's a resource out there that you can go and look at what the hell Congress is doing. And it's called congress.gov. Real easy. And in that, you can put in alerts by keyword or by a bill if you're trying to watch and see what's going on and how your representative is representing you or not. Yeah, that all of that is in there. So one that made the news along social media, particularly in the Green Party, was HR1. So HR1 is already a law, and like with any law, you can forward an amendment to it or change it or repeal it. So HR1 was already a law. And what this was supposed to do was give us more rights as voters. But as we go through some of the amendments, you'll see that's not exactly what happened. So, right. So as I was going through, there were like 6 different amendments that were proposed during this current Congress. And I posted who did what. Like there were some really good proposals about making sure that people had access to vote, polling places. Well, that failed. And then there was one about maybe lowering the voting age to 16. That failed. So the ones that did succeed were, we got to protect the billionaires. So there was a proposal for greater transparency, under the Citizens United clause, that dark money PACs and things like that had to actually post who their donors were, right? Their name, and just like if a regular person donates $10, $5, whatever, your name and occupation are public record on the FEC database. Well, we have to think of the billionaires. And yeah, so what happened was the good representative from Arizona, Miss Lesko, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Lesko, she stood up on the floor of the House, and all of these transcripts are available. So that's what I'm actually reading from, the transcripts. And some of them are just downright hilarious, the things that people say. But she got up there and she made an impassioned plea about the safety and well-being of the billionaire class. And she was saying that we can't expose them to harm by virtue of them donating $500 or more. We have to keep their identities secret for their own safety. And apparently,
right. And for the safety of their security forces and safe and attack dogs.
That's exactly, their gated communities. So apparently that had bipartisan support. She did such a great job that amendment passed. So if
wow, thank goodness.
Right. So if you donate 500 or more to a candidate cause or PAC or whatever, no one gets to see who you are. So I feel so much better that we're protecting big money. So
nothing more sad than a crying billionaire on CNN.
Dabbing their eyes with $100 bills. Yeah. So the other one that I thought was really great was, I gotta find it. This guy from Minnesota. Where the hell is he? He had another impassioned plea. Let's see. So I'm going through all of the pages on this, and Wasserman Schultz was in there speaking on behalf of billionaires, and then this guy, where the hell did it go? Anyway, so this guy from Minnesota, and I want to say it was Messer. He was so snarky and fun. It was awesome, and I really can't disparage what he said, although how he said it was kind of, yeah. So his whole thing was, Democrats get up here and they're talking about this, that, and the other thing, and do they want to help Americans with their COVID relief? No, they want to do HR1, knowing full well that he was one of the people that stopped the whole discussion on COVID relief. So there was that. But then he goes on and says, do Democrats really want to help with, all of these things when they're talking about defund the police? No. So we're going to get to why maybe defund the police is the right wording for this a little bit later. But just go through, and I put the links to the amendments, and there's a transcript exactly of who said what and when and how. And if you've ever wondered, the House of Representatives, is it full of complete and utter BS? Here you go. Here you go. Some of the comments here are just amazing. So we're talking about voting rights, and somebody will get up and say, I'd like to use my time and be recognized to talk about one of my constituents who turned 90 years old today. Congratulations, Greta. And you're like, we're
still working 3 jobs.
Yeah. She's got her bootstraps going. So all of that is in here too, in the middle of a debate. So it's a really good way to kind of understand how the sausage doesn't get made in Congress. So yeah. And then the big story, this is why the Green Party, People's Party, National Progressive Party, all of these efforts from the independent side were really up in arms, because there's a federal provision. If you amass money on behalf of a candidate or cause during a federal election, like a presidential level election, the federal funds will be matched to it. And one of the amendments that did pass was making sure that you had to have like $25,000 raised in your prospective district. And why this matters is you have the Democrats and the Republicans who are wholesale bought out, so they can raise that money and do quite easily. But when it comes to independent parties and independent efforts who are not about the money, and in fact, openly fighting against money being the arbiter of politics and policy, these groups don't focus on amassing money. So it actually penalizes them. So while you have this bill, HR1, that is supposed to be about democracy and voting, these provisions are actually doing just the opposite. And to me, now I'm not a lawyer, but this looks like a poll tax.
You do play one on TV, though.
Occasionally, poorly, but I do. So it looks like a poll tax, right? It should not be, it should be the merit of your ideas, not your net worth. And here you have Republicans and Democrats siding together, talking about it's your net worth that matters, right? So that's kind of a
Well, that's a capitalist society for you.
right.
And the whole thing we're looking at this, right? And if you recall, when the Democrats took the House back in 2018, what were they talking about, right? The very first thing, the very first day they were talking about voters' rights, right? We got to change those voters' rights. We got to make it easier for people to vote. You look at every single one of those 6 points that are currently in HR1. It's not about anything but making it easier to elect Democrats, right? Why didn't they allow the voting age to go down? Because those people are more progressive. They're not going to vote for centrists. So why would we want that to happen? I'm surprised there was an amendment in this that raised the voting age to 45.
Well,
right?
that would help.
All of this is about electing Democrats. And why is it such an important thing? Because it looks really good. It looks like the Democrats are doing the right thing. And why are they okay with it? Because it doesn't cost their donors any money.
And
Woo-hoo!
that's the point, right? That is, oh, Andy, say it again. Say it again.
It doesn't. Every single one of their donors doesn't lose a dime on this, which is why it's an easy, low-hanging fruit for Democrats. I'm not going to piss off a single donor at the top of the food chain. So it's the perfect thing because it looks so good. People are going to say, oh my God, it's the kinder, gentler Biden. It's the Democrats. And thank God they don't tweet about war. They just bomb and keep it quiet.
That's exactly right. And so growing up in this country, you always heard the narrative that Republicans try to make it harder to vote because their demographic is literally dying off, right? But that party still exists, and most of them transitioned over to the Democratic Party under the third way. So for anyone who still has this misguided notion that the two parties are not joined, here it is. This is yet another example. And you have people like Cori Bush who was trying to make amendments to lower the voting age. And she also had a provision in there to recognize that prisoners do retain their rights, voting rights, but that also got shot down. So anything that had meaning was shot down, but those, you're right, Andy, those things that don't cost the donor class anything, those were retained, and it's all largely performative for the rest of us. So you don't necessarily have to deliver on policy that will help people across the political spectrum. And we have said that many times. I know other pundits have said it too. Democrats are wholesale giving away the midterm elections. So this is one way that they can ensure that they might have some bit of chance to retain maybe some seats, is by knocking like the Green Party off the ballot, right? So
Exactly.
That's all this is. That
Yes.
is, yeah. So
We gotta make sure that the midterms elevate the Republican Party again, because it's easier for us to point out and make them look like the hateful people that they are if they're in power than if we are.
mhm.
Right?
Yeah. It's so much easier to bitch and complain about the other party when you're not in power. But now that they are and have all of these tools at their disposals, and one by one, we see them ignore them, pretend they're not there, or issue statements that are flat out false, so that they don't have to do anything. And yet here we are as a nation. I don't care where you fall in the political spectrum. I have more in common with you than I do with a millionaire sitting in Congress right now. So okay, so that was fun. So let's get to Miss Elaine Chao. Miss Elaine. So if you are not familiar with Miss Elaine, she was appointed under the previous administration, and she largely went under the radar because she wasn't out there doing batshit crazy, but she was. And now we're finding out exactly what she was doing. She just wasn't very public about it. So Miss Elaine was so extra in her role as transportation secretary that she was literally making that entire department her personal assistants. So this new report has come out about her dealings, and a request was sent to the Department of Justice to investigate, but that came in December of 2020 when the administration was still in power, and they declined. But this report is still going on, and she is being investigated for ethics violations, clearly ethics violations. So not only was she having the transportation staff plan family vacations to China and all sorts of other things, she was having them package up Christmas ornaments and send them out to their family, running personal errands for herself, literally helping package and promote her dad's book. All of these things are highly illegal, improper, and violate ethics. But she was she was having playtime and making all of these professional staffers who were, tasked with doing things for our D-rated transportation to improve it. No, she was having them do personal things for her, get her a latte, and just the list of things that are coming out from her own staff in details and records about how she was conducting herself and that agency during her tenure are just so egregious. And in fact, rarely in a report do they go to hyperbole, but in this report, it's peppered with phrases like flagrant abuse of her office and clear ethics violations. Oh, they're good.
Well, and clearly, Finn is upset.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You can yell at him now. Did you yell at him? Go ahead.
I'm yelling. So I have them trained that I say when we're on air, they stop.
Yes, except that I don't read lips, but I just saw what you said, and thank you for muting.
Oh, no.
Now, clearly he's upset too. But that was the dog expression. You kiss your mother with that mouth.
They're good doggies. They're so good. They were fast asleep, so I imagine there's somebody walking somewhere and they had to say something.
There's something alive near your house. The audacity.
Or it could be the wind just blowing a branch. They don't.
I say that when baby starts to bark at the front door, did you hear a worm fart out there?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's the level. They're good doggies. All right. So Elaine. So for those of you who are not aware of Miss Elaine's familial associations, this is the wife of Mitch McConnell. So Mitch, who is the minority leader, he's the minority leader now in the Senate for the Republicans, that's his wife. So for all of the Trump supporters who were crowing about yeah, hiring your family members and friends. The entire swamp was full of Republican swamp things, just like Biden is now putting in Democratic swamp things like Neera Tanden, who, yeah, they pulled her nomination, but she's still going to get a job. Don't you cry for Neera. Don't you cry.
Neera was just a distraction, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Her policies were so shitty. We couldn't talk about her policies. We had to talk about her tweets because her policies are identical to Biden's. So
yeah, and it's really unfortunate that she had to go through all this because it took her away from her humanitarian efforts.
Are those for the donor class again? Or because I'm not familiar with any charitable thing that she is doing.
You know, it's great. By the way, I just wanted to mention here, the show that we did on Monday where we explained about what's happening with the $15 minimum wage thing. My wife asked me yesterday if I would vacuum the upstairs, and I said I would, but the parliamentarian said I didn't have to do it till 2026.
How did that go? Did she roll over?
Well, it took a while to get over anger, but then she realized that, that was the right decision.
Right. If the parliamentarian rules, I'm going to try that. I am definitely going to try that. Yeah, I think in my household, it's not going to fly. Because he knows Robert's rules. He knows Robert's rules. He knows what a parliamentarian is. I'm pretty sure that he'll be like, no. No. So Elaine Chao's hubby. So Mitch McConnell is married to Elaine Chao, this corrupt transportation secretary. Well, okay, so here's the funny part. So Elaine, in her ethical measure, there was a line that could not be crossed. So she resigned on January 7th. She was supposed to continue on till Biden's inauguration, but because of the storming of the Capitol, that was it. That was it for her. No. So she resigned that day. So apparently, yeah, that was her measure right there. You know what though? Here's where I'm about to get in trouble. So pull me back. But the reason she resigned is because her husband was put in danger. Not that the rest of the country was looking at this, not that it was insurrection. Everything that had gone on the last 4 years was totally okay with her. She was more than comfortable to play house on our time and our dime. But when they went after her husband and threatened him, that was it. That was a measure. So here again, we see an example of, if it doesn't personally affect me, then it's not real. But when you start to get to a point where, Sarah Huckabee, when she was sitting in, what was it, the Red Hen restaurant, and somebody politely went, "Hey, Sarah, what you're doing, the lying, not okay." She was so personally offended that it interrupted her meal. So here and again, you have an example of it's not real unless it personally affects me. And this is the mindset that I keep coming back to when I look at people in Congress, because they are so insulated from the rest of us. We are just a nebulous thing to them. We're not real. Their donors are, the people that they associate with, those are real. And her straw here was, oh no, you went after my husband. No. So I think there's a lesson there for everyone. And I don't want to suggest violence, but I do want to suggest that going to your representative's office is absolutely within your right. Be polite, be professional, but that's what they have an office for, right? That is what you're supposed to do. And if you're unhappy about HR1, if you're unhappy about the stimulus check, if you're unhappy about all of these things, they are a representative for you. So maybe make it real, make yourself real to them by making an appointment or just going to their office and talking to their staff and finding out when you can get a face-to-face with your representative. So
Right. And that makes a huge difference. And people don't realize why that works, right? Because in a neoliberal society that is, unfettered capitalism, your government looks at you as a consumption unit or, a commodity to be exploited, right? That as a group, but not as individuals, right? They see the whole of society. They don't see the individual people that are struggling, that are, that are trying to deal with student debt or medical debt or getting thrown out of their home or their house in a pandemic, right? So going to see them puts a face on that on the masses, right? And it's effective. It certainly is. That's a very important part to remember.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so let's move on to Yurtle. Put up that picture, Andy.
Okay, hang on. I just want to put up a disclaimer warning. The image that you're about to see may be shocking and offensive and actually scary to some. Please, if you have young children or adults that have a weak stomach, maybe make them turn away from the screen now.
Oh, okay. I have way too much fun with this picture because everybody has the same reaction. And the minute I see this photo in my head, I hear, so I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. But we need to talk about Mitch McConnell and his dead hand, his black dead hand. So he is preparing to leave office. Hopefully it's through a resignation because I don't wish death on anybody, but
well, actually, I've heard that there was a plot that was perpetrated by him to have Snape kill him on the tower.
Right. It's there. Yeah. Okay. So maybe that is in the works because he is making preparations now and he's doing this through the state legislature. And I thought this was interesting because in Kentucky, when an office holder at the congressional level leaves office, it is an open vacancy that is appointed by the governor. That's kind of unusual. In most states, like if you're a representative or a senator and you leave, then your party, the party that is affiliated with you, gets to choose your successor, or there's a special election like we're having here in New Mexico. But Kentucky, no, they leave it to the governor. And it kind of makes sense in the way that Kentucky works, because if you recall, the governor's seat was always held by a land-owning wealthy white person, a white man. And the Senate was always a seat held by wealthy landowning white men. So you don't want the slobbering masses getting in the middle of that. You want to make sure that the wealthy elite are protected and represented. So it makes sense that Kentucky would have the wealthy appointing the wealthy. But Mitch is really concerned that if he steps down and the law stays as it is, then the Democratic governor of Kentucky will choose a Democrat and, widen that margin by one seat in Congress, right, in the Senate. So what he has done is drafted and pushed a bill in the state house. Now remember, Mitch is federal, this is state. So he is trying to change the law in his state that when someone steps down, it is their party that nominates a new person. I'm okay with that. It's okay, fine, whatever. But here's where it gets Mitchy. What he's trying to do is
Can I get rid of that picture now?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. What he's trying to do is he's got 3 people that he would like to see succeed him. So a line of succession as if royalty, right? And the top person is the wife of one of his top donors. So of course you got to have a pay to play kind of thing, right? And that's what makes us Mitchie, is because he is trying to do not only change the law, but change the law for his benefit and a pay to play scheme. And we'll see if that goes through. So this is Senate Bill 228 in Kentucky. So as soon as I saw this and I saw that Mitch was getting ready maybe to step down, I have a friend who lives in Kentucky now, who is a diehard progressive with a backbone, who had run for Congress before. And I had talked to him about, well, maybe you'll do it again. So I'm going to be on the phone to see, okay, if Mitch is going to resign and he appoints his lackey or the donor, whatever, you got to run. You got to run against this. This would be so much fun. So I'll be keeping an eye on this one and how it all transpires. So there's that. Yeah, so that's Mitch. All right, so now on to more fun and snark. Okay, so you have heard us talk before about things going on around the country and some programs that we are personally supporting, either as individuals or as a network. And one of them is the Rename Siemens District Schools. So it's Rename Siemens Schools. And this is out of Topeka, Kansas. And this is a student-led initiative. And what they're trying to do is Siemens, I forget what his name, Frank, Jack, whatever, some guy back in the 1800s, early 1900s, he was this massive clan leader, and everybody in Topeka was cool with it. So they decided to name a school district after him because he was also a teacher, by the way, which is exactly what you want. You want a murderous clan leader teaching your kids. So great.
If you're into the Klan.
If you're into the Klan, right? So these kids are trying to get the school board to change it, and they're meeting some very, very nice but bullshit kind of arguments, like, oh, it'll be too expensive and this and that. And we're really, it comes down to a safety issue, and then your district has to be better than this shitty guy who killed people and lynched people for a living. So one of the stories that came out when we look at activism and activists, people may not recognize that activists sometimes become the target. And when we step back and take a look at like the FBI report, and the biggest risks that we have here are white supremacy groups, alt-right groups, and the infiltration of law enforcement by these types of characters. This was a report that came out in 2006, and it was reiterated a few years ago, and then it's just now it's been listed as one of the chief risks that we have as Americans here is from other Americans who are desperate to hold on to this idea that the color of their skin makes them somehow better. And most of those people are in law enforcement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the stories that came out in February was Jacksonville, Florida. And this is Baker County, the sheriff's office. So Andy, do you want to put that one up there? Now this one, you shake your head at it, but then as I started digging into it, now I started to laugh. So what happened with Baker County Sheriff's Department? They got involved because there was a mural in Jacksonville in the courthouse, the public courthouse. And in this beautiful mural up at the top are a bunch of literally Klan members riding horses, white hoods, everything. And some students, it's been there for years, and some students saw it and went, what the shit? They were like, no, take that off, paint over the grass or something. And the city wouldn't do it. So the students started to organize, and these were like junior high students. They were like, yeah, we don't want this. We don't want this representing us. We don't want people to see this and think that I am involved with it. This is heinous. So they started to do protests, peaceful protests, which is their right to do. And they were getting help with how to organize and messaging and what steps to take. And, little things like if you step off the curb and you're in a peaceful protest, you can be arrested and the police can harass you. So you need somebody there to go, okay, everybody, we're going to stay in the public right of way. We're not going to step on the lawn. We're not, just to make sure everybody stays in line. So there was a gentleman there named Kevin Connor, he has been a longtime activist who was coaching the kids, right? Well, no good deed goes unpunished. So what happened is the Baker County Sheriff's Department, who apparently embrace racism and love all of this stuff, they doxed this man. And what they did is and it's still out there, their public Facebook post from February, they actually say and allude to this person, Kevin Connor. They're calling him a pedophile and saying that he's exploiting our children and he's trying to meet with these female students surreptitiously. And so they went all out in the defamation thing. And it's clearly defamation. You could see exactly what they're doing. And this man, Mr. Connor, has now filed a lawsuit for defamation because he said he's getting death threats because people are reading this, trusting the sheriff's office, and they now think that this guy's a pedophile, right? So that's the egregious part of it. But here's where it gets kind of funny. So because I can't leave anything alone, and my Google foo is just so on point. So I started to look up information on the Baker County Sheriff's Department. Oh boy, rocks and glass houses for this department, right? So I found so many deputies, some who are in jail now for abuse of office, for misrepresenting themselves, and in particular, soliciting sex from minors. So, of course, they would try to dox this guy with an argument that they themselves are really well familiar
Yes,
with.
yes, this guy is a pedophile, and we would know.
So it's just one of those things. I'm like, you guys are utterly ridiculous. And so that what I thought was funny is the spokesperson for this, and I don't have his name. It's somewhere in this article that I posted. I was like, okay. So he's defending this doxing. And he thinks, oh, here it is. Major Randy Cruz, Crews, Randy Cruz. He was defending their post saying, well, it doesn't outright say that he was. I'm like, yeah, it totally does outright say that this guy's a pedophile. So I went out and I found tons of photos of Major Randy Cruz with minors that are not his own children. Tons. Now, were I to take the same tact that Major Randy did, I'd post those all over the place and going, what is Randy up to now? Salacious stuff, but that's illegal, right? For me as a private citizen, but more so for a sheriff's office where they are supposed to uphold the law. They are not above the law. They have to adhere to it and enforce, right? But here they are doing this, and they're doing it because they are defending Klan images in a mural. This is not a defund the police thing. This is them abusing their power, abusing the public discourse that they are supposed to adhere to a certain decorum, and doxing someone, which is illegal. And in Florida, you also can't do this through electronic means. This is harassment. So, but here's the kicker. When they are ruled against and a judgment comes out from the civil case, the sheriff's office isn't paying it. It's all the people in Jacksonville who'll be paying it. So they don't give a shit. They will keep doing this stuff until we start holding them accountable. And maybe they have to have insurance, like I have to have it, right? I have to have professional liability insurance. Why don't they? So let it come out of their insurance payments, not from the people of Jacksonville who probably don't agree with this, probably think that this is really a shitty thing to do. So, so that is what defund the police means for those who still haven't gotten the memo. We want to stop being their piggy bank when they do this really crappy stuff. So getting back to Siemens High School, what I thought was really cool is there was an interview of the janitor, the school janitor, and he has been there and now he's on the side of the students, and he actually came out. This is what I thought was beautiful about it. People will have opinions about a particular issue, but be terrified to step forward. Either I'm terrified that I'm outing myself as a racist, or I'm terrified that I will be a target of a racist if I come out against them. So they don't necessarily say anything. Here's a school janitor who is around the kids all the time, working for the school district, and he's like, yeah, wow, no. And in fact, he is quoted as saying, I was really disappointed. It's like, wow, really? That was very interesting, talking about the history that he learned of the school. And then I thought it's time to do something about it because it's not okay. It's 2021, and we should care more about people than a guy who was more destructive in a community than constructive. This is the janitor. And he goes on to say, when you think of the KKK, not only the damage they have done to African Americans, but other religious groups and other citizens of color and even women, then you start to think about them. They don't belong in this country. They hung people on trees and nothing should be named after them, particularly a school. That's the school janitor. And I applaud
the voice of reason in all this.
Right. So what the school district has done is, rather than having a vote and debate on it, they're doing a task force. They're organizing a task force. And so for those of you who think that a task force is necessary when it comes to maybe we shouldn't have a school named after a Klansman, you're part of the fucking problem, right?
Yes,
So
yes. If you're serious about doing something, you do it. If you're not serious about doing something, you create a task force.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. So to me, this, all of the arguments that I've seen from the school board about costs and everything else, I'm pretty sure in Topeka, you have people who would be willing to donate signs for the side of the school to whatever name you choose. They will probably donate their time and effort and talents to making sure that that name gets changed on the side of the school. Do you still use letterhead, actual paper? I'm pretty sure some print company will donate a couple reams of paper to you. What is the problem here, right? New jerseys, you get new jerseys every year and you make the students and the student athletes pay for them. What's the problem? Repainting the football field, you have to do that every year too. So what's the problem, right? When you start to pull back on these arguments, what you're really saying is we want to keep the Klan culture. And that is just, wow. Yeah, shitty people. So
and it's funny because, because of the, I'm of the opinion that the U.S. was all created as a country, based on white supremacy, based on racism, right? From every instance of it, from the beginning of the founding fathers being slave owners right up and through 2021, that really nothing has changed except some performative things, right? And that's the culture. But you look at the people that are actively racist and know they're racist, but not a lot of people admit that they're racist. Why? Because they, at some level, probably realize that it's wrong, but they won't change their views, right?
absolutely. Real quick, I want to get to some of the comments because you guys are on fire this morning. So thank you. So Mike says, well, the janitor knows garbage when he sees it, just saying. Yeah, that's exactly right. And good morning, Dave. Dave says, well, it's Jacksonville. Yeah, it was when I came back from overseas and I landed in Florida. Rude awakening going on in Florida. So you're probably right, Jacksonville. And then trusting in the sheriff's office. Well, there's your first mistake. Yeah. And I gotta say that some of the side work that I'm doing, delving into stories about police corruption, there's this one story that I can't believe this hasn't been made into a movie. I'll put out the details next week. but they were literally trying to draw a person across state lines, part of the sheriff's office, a judge, and a bunch of lawyers to steal their inheritance, and trying to draw him across state lines to kill him, and they almost succeeded. Yeah, so this is North Carolina, South Carolina, all the Linas.
The line in the sand.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, then I like this one. Our country is like, no, we won't remove it. Hate is our heritage. And boy, ain't that the truth. Isn't that the truth? And then on a side note, and I think this is a really good point, did you know that the KKK was a multi-level marketing pyramid scheme? And all the best racist, most heinous organizations actually are, like CPAC. Yeah, pyramid schemes. So yeah, you guys were totally on fire, and I'm laughing at Jeffrey and Mike going back and forth. So yeah, you guys are funny.
Jeffrey's going to go down. He might as well go down in a ball of flames, right?
That's exactly right. And then one last thing before I stop talking and get ready for all the other stuff going on today. Tomorrow is movie night. So if you haven't already heard, I need you to go out to the Facebook page, Dominique Does Life. She's organized this, it's really cool. Through the Rave app, we're going to do a movie night, and we're going to watch I Care a Lot, and it's all about estate trafficking. It is literally the legal way to own another human being in this country. Let me say that again. It is the legal way to own another human being in this country. Perfectly legal, and it's happening everywhere. So you have sex trafficking, which is $1 billion industry that we don't really talk about, but it's illegal. You can get busted and go to jail. This estate trafficking, where you're owning another person legally and a judge and a lawyer sign off on it. Wow. So join us for that. And we have a couple real life stories. Dominique's got a personal connection to it. One of the programs that I'm working with, freebrendabryant.com, talking about lawyers and corruption, goes all the way up in this one, and it all relates to this particular topic. So Dominique Does Life on Facebook, and you'll find all the details about how to join us and watch this movie. And we'll have I want to call it a girls' night, but guys are invited too. So what do you call it? Just have a movie sleepover? I don't know, but yeah, so that'll be really cool tomorrow. So and then the other thing coming out tonight, KC Info Rail. It's about 8 o'clock Eastern, 8 or 9, whatever they feel like. You'll see it. They always have a wonderful program, and it's hilariously funny and poignant, and there's no bullshit allowed. They just go right for it, and I love every bit of it. So if you haven't seen that, and that one's actually a call-in show, so you can watch it on our channel, on KC Info Rail's page, on our Twitter, and call in and participate that way too. So
and isn't another colleague of ours planning on being on that show this evening?
Yes, okay, so you have 7 on there already, and now Jay Brandon is going to be joining him, and I think they're actually going to be talking about the Siemens issue. And I know that I can't do it, but I wish that I could record snippets of our team meetings when the two of them are a little pissed off and talking about it's hilarious. I mean, I'm like in tears. So I expect that's going to happen when they both get together on this Klan issue, and let's defend the Klan. Yeah, so make sure you tune in this evening, or at least
well, and you had to leave the call early, and then for Jeffrey and my benefit, Brandon went through the PowerPoint presentation that he's prepared for all of this. And it's so thorough. It was with the graphics and everything, and and just walking through the entire thing. It was like, oh my God, this is perfect. Right. Wonderful. So I'm sure Brandon's going to talk about that tonight as well. So this is a really, really good show that it was KC InfoRail is a great show to begin with, but it really brings out what Brandon's doing with the students, with the Siemens schools and stuff. So that's really important to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So tune in and get that. And I do want to make mention of this because I know that some of the racist detractors in Topeka are trying to forward the narrative, just like the Florida Sheriff's Department, that this is an adult run program and that adults are co-opting it and manipulating the kids. No, not at all. Not at all. So while adults may be talking about it, the ones who are actually leading this effort and directing adults are the students. So it is absolutely a student-led effort. The rest of the adults are like, how can we help? What do you need? And we actually talked about it. Brandon and I talked about it, that typically what happens is an adult in this case is the person who holds the line toe to toe with the racist person who is threatening the kids. That's our role. And then we create the safe environment for that discussion to happen, right? So regardless, if you are on the side of racists, I want you to explain to me in a safe space that you are all in for your racist heritage, so that everyone can hear this bullshit argument that you're about to make. I want that to happen. That can't happen if your cohorts are threatening kids and everyone else trying to shut that conversation down. So that is the role of the adults in this. Everything else is being led by the kids, how they want to do it, including the messaging and everything else. So for anyone who tries to say, Brandon's co-opting it or this one's co-op, no, not happening, not at all. And we have receipts. So good luck there.
Absolutely.
Good luck. So, Andy, that's all I got, and I got a ton of work. I am fortunate enough to have been invited to KRTD Media to do their first Fridays. So I did it last week, which was not the first Friday, but this is the first Friday of March. So I am a co-host on that show out of New York. So I got to get ready for that. And we're going to be talking about Texas, the grid, all of this sort of thing. So I now know more about wind turbines and solar than I ever thought that I would ever need to know. So we're going to talk about all of that with Texas, which ties into the story that you had on RP about Austin's water crisis. So
exactly. And there was I don't know if you caught this, Cori, but just a quick side note that part of the reason that Fox News said that all of these problems were occurring was because the windmills couldn't take the cold. They fell apart in the cold, right? And then somebody made a meme on Twitter that showed windmills in Russia, Scandinavia, Antarctica, and they seem to be working fine.
And that's what we wanted to talk about, because if they privatized profits and decided that so when I was doing the research on it, this is not the first time this has happened, apparently. So the last two times was 1998 and 2011. So about every 10 years, you have this dramatic freeze that happens in Texas, and their grid goes down. And every time afterwards, they were told, hey, you should have winterized this. You should have done more to protect this. You should have upgraded. And Texas kind of goes, and then waits for the next 10 years. So what's happening now is, because the water pipes and everything else burst because you didn't have power to heat apartments, a lot of these apartments still don't have running water. And when you think about running water, you think about drinking water and survival. It's bigger than that. It goes into, you need to take a shower or bathe for your job. You need to be able to cook. Sanitation, you can't flush a toilet. And so water has been restored for a lot of suburbs. The Beckys and everybody else, they have water. Lower income folks don't have water, do not have water.
Well, and that's not, and the problem is, if you see the the Macro and Cheese, or hear the Macro and Cheese podcast that we released, the special report we're talking about was released on Wednesday. What's happened is the public utilities have all been repaired, right? So the Texas officials have backed away saying, okay, it's all good, everything's fine. Meanwhile, all of the private buildings that are privately owned and their pipes are all burst, right? And so these people that run these apartment places or, housing development areas have all shut the water off because these pipes have to be fixed. So because the government says, okay, we did our part, and they backed away now, right? They're refusing to do anything further. And there's still a huge amount of the population, especially in the large centers, the most populous centers, where people still don't have water, but the government now refuses to do something because, well, we've done our part and it's no longer profitable for us to help you.
Exactly. And this is where the Texas bootstrap thing comes in. So this is a state that apparently hates their own people. They have the largest swaths of health deserts in the country. They have the largest income inequality of, I think, the top 10 states. Education, across the board, if you live in Texas, you're on your own. And it is that way by design. So no one should really be surprised, right? You don't have that sense of community and we're in this together. You're on your own. By the way, go ahead and pay your taxes to the state.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have higher taxes than a lot of states and less service for it. So
right. And this is all part of a exchange that I had on Twitter about especially what's happening with COVID right now. And this is a really good opportunity to show how the current governments and the capitalist governments are trying to deal with the COVID problem. And I'm going to prepare something for Monday and present it then. But yeah, you can kind of take all of the things that's happened in Texas, and it's very revealing when you connect all the dots and what the neoliberal response is to all of these problems, right? And how to co-opt it and still keep it profitable for everyone involved.
Absolutely. Oh, looking forward to your homework, Andy. That'd be great. Great Monday. So that's all I got. It's 2 minutes after the hour. So I'm ready to get on with the rest of my stuff. I hope everyone has a wonderful remainder to their Friday and your weekend is safe, productive, and you do something enjoyable besides laughing at, sheriff's office acting badly. Other than that, we'll be back here Monday with Andy's presentation, his show and tell. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Cori. Have a good weekend. Take care, everybody.
We bout that, ayy. We in the zone. We out here, yeah. Spitting the facts, how it's supposed to be. Hair of the dog, we keeping it G.